All right. Hey, so I know a bunch of you on this call had the opportunity to go to the award trip in Hawaii. Hopefully, all of you will be there next time. That's the hope and plan, right? We had a great time, and we're actually going to be changing some of the formats in which we're allowing people on and helping people to receive the awards trip. So, should be a really good experience for everybody to be able to have a chance at getting there. Really, despite your production, we're going to allow some other incentives to be able to help you get there along with your production. So that's which is the good stuff. All right. So with that, hey, I'm excited to be with you. I'm excited about sharing. I was thinking and reflecting this last week about personal structure, and I want you to write something down. Some of you I know will be taking some notes, and I would encourage you to do so. And this is the first statement that I want to make to you, and that is, a poor structure always produces a poor result. A poor structure always produces a poor result. On the opposite of that, an extraordinary structure always produces an extraordinary result. So when I speak to the fact of our structure, when I speak to the fact of our results, what I'm talking about is in business. The structure in which you set things up in, which is like your schedule, it could be your plan, it could be your activities, it could be the things you do every day, it could be the time you wake up, it could be the time you go to bed. When we have a poor structure, it always will produce a poor result. So instead of maybe complaining necessarily about your results, what you should do is take a step back and ask yourself, wait a second, how am I setting things up here? I remember that a book when I read, gosh, I probably read it 25 years ago, but I remember it was basically a statement from Jack Nicklaus, one of the greatest golfers, if not the greatest golfer of all times. And Jack Nicklaus was stated as something like this. I'm going to paraphrase it, but he said, 80% of the golf shot is in the setup, in the quote structure. 20% of it is in the actual swing, meaning that if you set things up properly inside of your game, meaning the way you hold the golf club, how wide and narrow your stance is, what's your spine angle, how close are you to the ball, how far away are you from the ball, how far is the ball forward in your stance, how far is the ball back in your stance, how are you holding the club, what's your grip pressure, what's the grip that you're using, are you choking down on the grip, is your entire hand on the grip? All of these different factors are about the structure. And he said, once that structure and that setup is proper, the rest of it takes over, meaning that the result of the golf shot is almost always pretty darn good. So I want you to think about that for a minute. When you look at your own career and you look at your business today, and again, there's no comparison to these last 2 years. A lot of people have had very poor structures and setups and have found themselves making a little bit or a lot of money. But we all know that there's been significant changes in regards to the way in which the market is operating, the way in which the market is producing business or allowing business to happen, from inflation to lack of inventory, rising interest rates. All of these different factors have factors of change in today's market. So we have to take a step back and say, okay, what are we doing in regards to our personal structure and the personal setup as to our business and to our future? So I want to identify about 3 things that I want you to really focus on. And gang, I don't think it's that you need to focus on 25 things. You can if you choose to. But I have found that if you'll focus on 2 or 3 core things that will make all the difference throughout your day and throughout your career, the rest of it will take care of itself. And I've realized that in running all the different companies I run. I mean, I have 9 different companies. All of them have P&Ls, profit and losses, and balance sheets and income statements. And I'm reviewing these different models of spreadsheets and financials. And as I'm looking at them, I'm only looking at a handful of things. I don't need to look at 25 things on the sheet. Now I can look at the results, but I know that the results of our companies are produced by just a few key things. And a lot of times, some of you are familiar with this statement, KPIs. KPIs, meaning key performance indicators. So what are your key performance indicators? What are the key things you're doing every single day to create the right structure so that you get the right result in your life? Now, look, it's simple to observe. If you set yourself up properly with the right things in regards to your health, The results of your health are properly in place, right? The results of what time you get up, how you exercise, how you meal plan, how you meal prep, all of these different factors have then a result that will come from them. When there is no structure, when there is a weak structure, a poor structure, a bad structure, those are going to be the results. Health is an easy one to look at. Now let's go back to the business side of it. In regards to business, there's just a few things I want you to look at. Let's first look at prospecting. Number one, write down the word prospecting. Now, a lot of people don't like to even talk about this word. It's cloaked oftentimes as lead generation. It's cloaked as to, talking with people is often what I will say. But the reality is it's prospecting. So let's just talk about this for a moment. Look, we are in the direct sales business. We're in the business of speaking, conversing, and talking with people. We're in the business of not just waiting for business to come to us and for people to call us, because if we just wait for business to happen, it's unlikely that very much is happening. And frankly, it's not very predictable if that's the outcome we're looking for. Now, you may say, well, George, but that's what I've been able to do the last couple of years. Right. Well, in the last 100 years, or let's just take the last nearly 30 years I've been in this business, the fact is that I have never seen a better market that I've ever seen in the last 2 years, ever. In 30 years. Some people will say it's the best real estate market we've ever seen in the last 100 years. So that's not an indicator of really reality or what the future holds if we look at our last 2 years. Because right now, what we need to look at is we have to look at the fact that the market is a very interesting market. The market is now requiring us to go out and get business. So let's look at this for a moment. Let's first write down the rules of prospecting. First rule is number of hours you choose to prospect. How many hours are you going to prospect per day and the combined number for the week? Now, I've had always a strong opinion that 15 hours of prospecting per week will always produce well over $250,000 of income. Now, people say, well, how do you know that? I know that because of all the people I've coached for all these years. Guys, at this point, I'd have to be a complete idiot if I didn't see some trends, some clues, and some ideas that come from all the coaching I've done. I personally added up the number of coaching times I've sat down one-on-one with agents, and over the last 30 years, it's over 50,000 times I've sat down with agents and sat down and coached them and listened to them and heard the way in which they're structuring their lives. And what I have found very quickly is that 15 hours of prospecting per week is always the outcome of over $250,000 or more a year. Now, the higher skilled you are, which we'll get to, or the more productive you are, or the better effectiveness you have, then the answer is easy. Of course, you're going to produce more with those hours. But as a minimum, if you are really not that skilled and you're just average in your approach, if you prospect 15 or more hours a week, well, it's pretty clear what's going to happen. You're going to produce a minimum of $250,000 or more in income. That's the beauty of that. All right. So the first one is the hours that we prospect. The second is the number of contacts that we make. Let's think about that one for a moment. The number of contacts that you make. Now, I've said this for years, and that is most people treat real estate like it's Las Vegas. They go put in a little bit of effort expecting, so much in return. And it would be the example of putting down a few bucks on some type of gambling table and thinking you're going to reap the benefits, or putting money in a slot machine, a few pennies in a slot machine, or a few dollars in a slot machine, and hoping you get thousands and thousands of dollars back. Well, it's a very, obvious reality that Las Vegas is built on losers. We know that's just not the reality. We may hear of the one person who makes a ton of money coming out of Las Vegas, but the majority of the people have lost money. That's why Las Vegas exists, because people lose money when they put a little bit of money in thinking they're going to get a big result back. Well, are you losing at the game of real estate? Which means, are you putting just a little bit of effort in and thinking you're going to get a lot back? So again, we said hours. Number two, the number of contacts, the number of people that you're going to speak to. Now let's talk a little more about this. The number of contacts that you make, I believe, needs to be at minimum 30 per day. Because look, I meet agents all the time where I'm seeing them make 5 or 10 contacts and they look at me and go, George, but I can't understand why I'm not making enough money. Look, 5 or 10 contacts a day is not enough. It's just simply not. And if you're a team leader, if you have a team, if you want a team, you're going to build a team, well, then you need to make sure that you're prospecting with your team. The most successful agents I've seen who win at the game of selling real estate and have a team doing it are the ones who prospect with their team. Those are the ones that make the most money. So again, they lead out by their example, whether it's in a team or personal, just an agenda of their or personal agent working on their own with their own agenda. Then the reality is they're going to win the game just based on the fact that they're making the contacts. So imagine this: you prospect 15 or more hours a week, you make 30 or more contacts a day. What would it look like? Well, I think it'd be pretty good. I know that it would be good. Now let's keep talking about this prospect part here for a minute. Now, in regards to prospecting, what we also need to have is that when those contacts are made, they need to be what I like to call meaningful contacts, meaningful conversations. Look, one of the things that is evident in today's marketplace is not as many people are willing to answer the phone. So how many texts are you sending out? How many videos are you sending out where you're taking your phone and you're just going, hey, Bob, Mary, or hey, Bob, this is George Morris. Just want to touch bases with you. Hey, just want to let you know that real estate's still selling. Rates are still pretty darn good. And just want to let you know that if you need any help in helping someone buy or sell real estate, just know that I'm here to help. Have a great day, Bob. How many videos are you doing? How many ways are you looking to create meaningful conversations? Well, how do you create a meaningful conversation? You create engagement. Engagement. Engagement is the key to great prospecting. So again, I'm not saying that you can only do 30 videos, which again would only take you a few minutes or what, 20, 30 minutes to do those, right? To do 30 videos would take you probably 30 minutes. But I'm suggesting that for your sphere of influence, for people that you know, for people you're lead follow-upping, for people that know you, who already trust you, or that you met someone and you set an appointment, are you following it up with a video to say how excited you are to see them in the next day or two? Are we using our resources like the things of texting, the things of videoing? Are you, when you're on social media, are you just tapping the like button on what they've done? Or are you going and DMing them and sending them a quick video saying, hey, I hope you had a great time in Disneyland. I hope you had a wonderful trip to Europe. Hey, it looks like you had a great camping trip with your family. Just want to reach out and say hello. Hope you're doing great. Know that I'm always here to help you for your real estate needs. You will create engagement because you deepen the level of engagement when you're willing to do videos, when you're willing to text and get a conversation going and then turn it into a voice conversation. What if you just called your sphere and said, hey, do you have time in the next couple of hours to visit for a few minutes? And you sent that text. Do you think it's likely that they're going to answer you back? The answer is, of course they are. Guys, the contacts I'm talking about, the 30 plus contacts a day, need to be meaningful contacts. They need to have some type of meaning behind them. And when you do that, all of a sudden, things change radically for the good. So I just go to these first 2 points. We were just getting started here, gang. But let's what if you made the hours, 15 hours, then you made the contacts of 30 meaningful conversations a day. And then the third is you prioritized your focus of your prospecting, which is number 3 is set an appointment a day or more. I used to put on my little 3x5 card, set 1+ appointment per day. Then I got to be able to where I could set an appointment a day. Then I've moved it to set 2+ appointments a day. But whatever it is, set it and set the intention. So if we know what we're going to do from the amount of contacts we're going to make, the amount of hours we're going to prospect, and the number of appointments we're going to set, I just promise you that you're going to have some great success in doing that. So as you move through your prospecting, as I mentioned, this is about setting up the right structure. So what if every morning you knew that you had a certain number of contacts to make, you knew you were going to prospect a certain amount of time, and you knew that you were going to set 1 or more appointments? Would your days be better? Would you have more success? The answer is yes. And the challenge with that is that when we are in the game of real estate, We like to do things like this. We like to come into our office and try to get everything off of our table, from the number of texts that we have to return, the number of emails we have to return, the number of deals and paperwork we have to do. And we'll put all of these things before our prospecting. That is a very poor setup. So again, I would tell you to focus on the amount of time, the amount of contacts, and the amount of appointments that you're going to set every single day. Let that be the priority to your success. Okay, that's point one, prospecting in regards to the setup, regards to the structure for a great outcome. Second point I want to make is practice. Practicing. Now there's an A and a B under practice. A is your mindset. B is your skill set. We're going to practice getting mentally stronger, and we're going to practice getting verbally stronger. Number one, mindset. I want you to think for a moment this morning, how have you started your day? How have you started your prospecting? How have you started your belief? How have you started, do you have a positive attitude, a negative attitude? What are the things you've done to create those things? Kudos to all of you for being on this call, right? Having a morning coaching session, which is a great way to start the day. But what else have you done? What have you read? What have you listened to? What have you watched? Who have you spent your time with? Did you exercise? Did you go on a walk? Did you go to the gym? Did you ride your bike? What have you done on a personal level to shape the mindset of your day and your week and your life? Look, all I know is that when I have had long weekends, long trips, total getaways, trying to, decompress, when I have to come back into the business world, like, in a fury, I have to make sure that my mind is right. I have to be listening, watching, living, and breathing this stuff to get my mind right. Have you written in your journal? Have you written down your plan for the day? Have you created the expectations and intentions of the day? All of these things are what help you to shape your mindset. And just as a reminder, look, I still got probably sand in my ears, dusting off the sand out of my toes from walking the beach just yesterday in Hawaii. But it doesn't matter that I don't feel like working today. Like, let's just be honest. Do I feel like working today? Of course not. I've been on vacation, for crying out loud. But it does not matter how I feel. And what I was reflecting on is that as long as my structure is in place, it all works. It's the reason why people do things like 75 hard. If you haven't heard of that, it's just, again, a structural system to your exercise, nutrition, and your well-being. All of these things. I'm seeing Jason Carlson on this call. He's one of our great, not only coaches, but leaders in Everest. And the thing is, I know that he did an Ironman just a week ago. And the fact is that you don't do those things without a great deal of structure. Every single one of us, if we want to win the game and have a successful life, we will create a deep level of structure that is making it so that we are successful. It's the reason why we have structure in school, structure in religion. We have structure in the country, and people are trying to destroy those pieces of the country, as we all know, to tear down the fabric if we hear of America. Why? Because the structure, some people love it, some people hate it, but there's a structure to this world that we live in. And when there is a successful nation, a successful family, a successful individual, a successful company, it's because they created the right structure. That's what creates the great results of a great country, family, individual, or business. That's how it works. All right. So make sure that number one, or number A on the practice, is that we ensure that we are protecting and elevating and empowering our mind. Second part of point B on practice, skill sets. Look, do yourself the favor. For years, I would pick 3 skill sets that I knew that I needed to master, or that were the weak points of my business. And I would spend the next 90 days focusing on those things. So let me just rattle off these 12 skill sets for you. These are in no particular order, although the one I will start with, I believe, is the most important, because nothing else matters if you can't do this. But there's really just 12 skill sets. Pick 3 and say, for the next 90 days, I'm going to go to role play, morning meetings. I'm going to practice, internalize, rehearse, role play. I'm going to write them down, video myself, record myself. I'm going to be a master of these skill sets. Now, I'm not going to go into great detail of these skill sets, but I just want you to hear them. Because what I do know this, that when I recognize that if I had these 12 skill sets, I knew that no matter what, I could win the game of real estate. I knew that no matter where I showed up in this country, I could win the game if I could relate to another human being and communicate with them in a strong and productive way. All right. So I'll go through them fairly slow so you can write them down. But here's the 12 skill sets. Number one, set an appointment. The ability to set an appointment. Set appointment. Number two, lead follow-up. The ability to do lead follow-up, the ability to make a call, the ability to ask them to see whether or not they want to buy or sell real estate today, or if you can meet, and being relentless in that lead follow-up. Number three, the ability to pre-qualify the appointment. The ability to pre-qualify the appointment, buyers or sellers, pre-qualifying them so that you're not using your time unwisely and wasting it. Number four, pricing. The ability to set a price on a particular property, the ability to learn how to manage pricing, not only to declare what the pricing is, be able to understand pricing, to be able to understand the statistics, the values. So number four is the pricing. Number five is presentation, the ability to present specifically to on listings and sellers, but it's the same thing. Number five is your ability to present to both buyers and sellers. If you can't present effectively, you probably aren't having a very effective business. Number six, we know that when we go on presentations, there's going to be a little bit of negotiation, or a little bit of resistance oftentimes. So we got to be able to handle objections. So number six is objection handling. Number seven is the ability to close the sale, close for the appointment, close for the presentation, close for the lead, closing. All right, we have to have the ability to close. Now, oftentimes in the middle of a listing or a buyer, there's negotiation. So number eight is our ability to negotiate. Can you negotiate effectively? Can you communicate effectively with buyers, sellers, communicate with the other agent, communicate with all sorts of people in the transaction? Number nine is your ability to do what's called future pacing. Can you predict the future? When you say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, just know in today's market, they probably may not pay our closing costs. So I need to make sure that you know that do not expect them to accept the fact that we're going to be able to do that. Or if it's a buyer's market and we flip it to a seller's market, we tell the seller, hey, don't be shocked that we're going to have a situation where the seller or the buyer asks you to pay for closing costs. Or maybe it's putting up the key box. Maybe it's, hey, I'm going to have, and then this is the key point here, under promise and over deliver. So if you say your sign's going to be up in the next 24 or 48 hours, and let's say you get it up in the next 6 hours. Again, you're predicting the future, your future pacing. Okay. Number 10 is customer service, the ability to serve the customer. Can you give great customer service? Can you produce the way in which that service is rendered? Number 11, these are all off of memory, but number 11 is your ability to, oh gosh, I just had it in my head, now I just forgot about it. Number 11 is your ability to, overall, I talk about your leadership. Leading, learning to lead. Are you a great leader? Can you lead people? Can you lead them through the process? Can you navigate them through the process? And last but not least is price reductions. Can you get a price reduction? Now, I just want you to imagine this for a minute. If you had all of those skills at a level 8 or 9 in your repertoire of skills, all of those 12 skills, could you win the game? See, what made me realize that there's nothing you can't learn and nothing you can't do in this business is because I realized that I can learn all 12 of these skills. And I know that I can knock on doors. I know that I can pick up a phone and prospect. And I know that I can drive to a house and make a presentation. And since I know there's nothing I can't do in this business, and there's nothing I can't learn in this business, then ask yourself, are you doing those things? I hope so. Because the thing is if you create the right structure to learning those skill sets, you will then be in a place where no one can ever take it away from you. Now, do I think it's hard? Do I think that role playing is difficult? Do I think writing your scripts down are difficult? Do I think that, just the mental fortitude of being uncomfortable in front of people and role playing and recording yourself by either video or audio, is it all uncomfortable? Of course it is. But that's how you become great. That's how, just ask yourself, why are you so committed to looking good? What if you didn't get so committed to always having to look good and look always like you got it all figured out? What if you were okay just acknowledging, saying, hey, I don't have it all figured out, but I'm going to learn how to figure this out. And all of a sudden you start prospecting and making mistakes. You start role playing and making mistakes. But those mistakes will then turn into refinement, and that refinement will turn into an extraordinary business. All right. So look, we've talked about prospecting, we've talked about practice. And then the last I want to talk about, we just got a few minutes left, but I just want you to write this down as number 3, exercise. As a minimum, exercising for 30 or more minutes a day. 30 or more minutes a day. I don't care if that's a brisk walk. I don't care if it's you going to the gym. I don't care if it's you playing some tennis with your buddy or some pickleball. I don't care. What I care is that you exercise 5 days out of 7 in a week. I know that this business will require that of you. And all I know over these many years I've been in this business, that in my own personal successes and failures, that when I'm not exercising, when I'm not practicing my mindset and my skill sets, and I'm not prospecting, this business becomes really, really difficult. I want to point out that for any and all of you who are listening today, if you are not earning enough money in this business, it is not the market's fault. It is yours. And you have to remind yourself that this market is based on the fact of one thing. It is based on your activity level. And you have a choice to do 3 things. Number 1, you can wait for your business to just happen. Number 2, you can go out and buy a business, internet leads, and pay exorbitant, referral fees and all sorts of things. Or you can, number 3, go out and get it. But if you will create the structure of going out and getting your business, you'll create the structure, protecting your mind and elevating your skill sets. And if you will exercise on a daily basis, there is nothing, again, as I repeat, there is nothing in this business that you cannot do. And there is nothing in this business you can't learn. So go do it. If you can learn it and do it, then go do it. Because you can. Because you can truly live your dreams in this business. This is a business, whether you're on the lending side or the real estate side or the title and escrow side. Right? I've got ownership in all these different companies. And I have people who listen to all different angles of this. But it all comes down to the ability to create the right structure on a daily basis so that you can live the life that you're destined to live. For all my managers, it's the same thing with your recruiting. For all of the loan officers, it's the same thing, interacting with agents. If it's an agent, it's their interaction with the public and their sphere of influence and people who are cheering for them and the people they don't know, through knocking doors, making phone calls, and making sure you're speaking to enough people. And if you learn the right things, do the right things, everything comes together. Everything. And that's a promise. You may say, well, how do you know, George? How do you know it's going to work? Because not only have I coached on it for nearly 30 years, I've also lived it for nearly 20 years of selling real estate. And I just would echo to you that it wasn't too long ago, guys, that I was selling real estate. It was 13 years ago. 13 years ago, I sold 115 homes in 15 months. And what was considered, which is today the greatest market in history, it was considered the worst market in US history in the last 100 years, in 07, 08, and 9, and 10. And in 2008, my script was this, gang. It was, if you can find anyone in the last 12 months that has sold more real estate than me, I will sell your home for free. And I had not sold real estate, by the way, for nearly 5 years before I came back into the market. I had owned another brokerage. I sold that piece of that brokerage, the ownership I had, and I went full bore back into selling real estate. I had not sold in over 5 years. And I went from 0 transactions to 115 homes in my first 15 months back. And then I wanted to prove that what I teach, what I have learned, what I'm begging you to do, asking you to do, pleading with you to do, works. And then I created Everest in 2009, in the worst moments of the market. And people again came to me and said, "What are you doing?" And I remember having brokers come to me and say, "Why are you doing this? While everyone's trying to get out of this business, you're going into it." Yep, I'm going right into it, because I knew that if I gathered enough agents that figured out that if they were willing to talk to people, if they were willing to talk with people, and if they were willing to learn what to say, creating the right mindset, and if they were willing to exercise on a daily basis, every single thing they wanted to have happen, even in the worst markets, the worst of markets, they could win the game. And gang, we're not even close to a market like 08, 9, 10, 11. This ain't nothing compared to those. Yep, lack of inventory. Okay, go get a listing. Have a buyer, go knock the area in which they want to live in. It is not an accident that I talk to people over and over again, even this morning on some coaching calls, where people have an extraordinary success because they're prospecting, because they're not waiting for things to happen. So although you may not have created the muscle for many years because of what this market has been like, to prospecting, to knocking doors, to talking with a lot of people in a consistent fashion, I realize that. But today's your day to go forward and to make it happen. Go forward and learn what needs to be learned so you can go do what needs to be done and go live the life that this business is destined to give you. If you'll do those things, everything else will come together. If you don't do those things, you're going to be a victim of the market. And then you're going to be asking yourself the question, why is this so hard? Why is it not working? All of a sudden, you'll go down the pathways of whining, complaining, pointing fingers, victimizing yourself, blaming others, and yet the only one to blame is yourself. Because if you choose not to speak with people, choose not to learn the skills to communicate with them, get your mindset right, take the hours that are necessary, the contacts that are necessary, and the practice that is necessary, then you're going to struggle. But the answers are there. The answers to the test are right in front of you. And I've given you those answers. Is there more details to those things? Of course there is. But there's the answers to the test. The test of this market, I've given you the answers to, and it will never change. That's the beauty of our industry. As much as they try to get us out of the industry and technology tries to exterminate the agent, the public has spoken, gang. They want a human being involved. You know what? They love technology. Man, they want someone to help them walk through one of the most scary, difficult, emotional, and purposeful transactions of a client's life or future client's life. This is your time. So go for it. Have an extraordinary rest of the week and know that, again, there's nothing you cannot learn. So go learn it. There's nothing you cannot learn. So go learn it and then go do it because you can. That is my promise. Have an extraordinary week. So good to see so many of you. Let's start strong and finish strong. Talk to you soon, guys. Have an extraordinary week, okay?